Greetings, and I actually do have to get ready for work. However, a little while ago I came across this great video by a young gentleman by the name of Colonel Absconder, entitled Feminists Launch Expansionary Power Grabs in the Atheist and Gaming Communities. A very, very good video, and I thought it deserved a response at the very least. Something I've been meaning to talk about for a while is this idea of feminist atheist, or whatever that means. Now, of course, full disclosure is appropriate. I've been an atheist my entire life, i.e., as long as I could think, I've have maintained a disbelief in the existence of deities. That said, something I've never understood is this concept of an atheist community. After all atheism is just an assessment of essentially the metaphysical or maybe scientific physical state of affairs in the universe, and that's it, and then you move on. I mean, this is not, I don't wear my atheism on my sleeves for specifically that reason. If you are a true atheist, in my opinion, it's just a non-issue. It's not something that even enters into your mind once you've made your assessment, since I've thought this my entire life, it's just not something I ever think about. All my friends in real life are atheists, but once again, they don't think about it, they don't talk about it very much, because for us, it's a given. Why would you ever have the need to form a community around that? It's absurd. And to me, in one thing that religionists are right about, I think, is, although not in the way they claim, is that atheism itself is a religion. No, the concept of atheism is not a religion. After all, I'm the most irreligious person in the world, probably. But this forming of groups, the groupism, the tribalism, this need for community, of course, that is a mirror very much of religious organizations. And I think in many cases, for religionists, that's, of course, the strong point, this idea of community. Human beings are social animals, after all. People need to interact with each other. And so, of course, that's an aspect of it. But I just wanted to say that I find just absurd, this whole concept of an atheist community, even more absurd, atheist figureheads, prominent YouTubers. There's just nothing to talk about. Yes, you can have arguments for or against, but beyond that, you cannot have an entire organization, a community that has been formed and come into existence on the basis of your lacking belief in supernatural powers. It's just crazy and absurd. That's my take on that, and I don't want to dwell too much on that, but I thought that was important to clarify. So yes, full disclosure, don't wear my atheism on my sleeve, because it's just, well, not terribly important, and I don't know. But what I really wanted to talk about is this concept of sort of feminism, female atheism, however they term it. And Colonel Absconder makes some good points. The things I'm going to talk about really are just an addendum. Now, I've mentioned in the past with regards to gaming, I do want to tie this into gaming, that it is a small minority indeed of female gamers who take an active interest in gaming aspects beyond perhaps story loosely. I mean combat mechanics, strategy, builds, and all the things that can fascinate a male gamer or a male mind that keeps them playing. After all, at the moment I'm playing Skyrim with a completely new build I've never tried before. Honestly, no magic whatsoever. I don't want to get off too on a tangent, but a sort of pure ranger using alchemy and no magic. So, this is the kind of stuff, of course, that motivates a lot of male gamers, or at least we have an interest in it and see how effective it is and what have you. And it is quite difficult without magic sometimes. But that's neither here nor there. But my point is that just as very few women are interested in the gaming mechanics of specific games, in the strategies, in the builds, in what I would deem to be sort of the essence of gaming, apart from story. And even then, they, don't, in my opinion, have a whole lot of interest or much to contribute, apart from complaints that aren't enough women, or femshep, as in feminine, or is a sexist portrayal of women, or who knows, or not female enough, or who knows. Like I said, that very few women have interest in metaphysical claims about the universe. I mean, it's just not something that they ever spend time thinking about. And admittedly, like I said, since I've thought this with regards to my atheism my entire life, I don't spend any time thinking about it either. But it's something, of course, that I have thought about and can, if need be, think about. And I can also come up with reasons for why I maintain my beliefs. But women generally have no interest in these things. I mean, you can argue till you're blue in the face at the the various debates starting in, say, the 17th and 18th century, swinging between some form of theism, then with Spinoza, pantheism, and then some sort of watered-down version of theism, and then finally deism, and then I mean, you can argue till you're blue in the face that if women had been allowed to contribute, they would have written a lot more, but they simply don't have interest in that stuff. I mean, can anyone here imagine a female David Hume? I mean, writing the thing. I mean, I can't. I can't imagine a female David Hume, just as I can't imagine a female Leibniz writing about monads. And we all know that monads are bunk, but at least he took the interest, right? Nor can I imagine a female Descartes who's sitting in front of a candle talking about the candle in her pajamas, as it were. It's just. And the reason being is that women don't have no interest in these things. So we have this bizarre phenomenon of an atheist community, which is, to me, a muck of contradictions. You don't have a community formed on the basis of some of your disbelief in supernatural powers, but okay, we have this odd atheist community thing, of which I've never been a part and will never be a part. But then you have these female infiltrators, I guess, who are in it because it is a community, because it has some following, because people gather and garner attention whilst being in it. That seems to be the primary interest of females and feminists in the so-called atheist community. In fact, it seems to me that that's always the reason, and I think the young Colonel Absconder pointed out quite well and quite intelligently in his video that whenever there's something that's sort of mainstream, and now atheism is a kind of, which is, it just boggles my mind, but it's some sort of a mainstream, which of course females need to get in on it and flash themselves around because they need the attention, just like gaming. They need the attention. I remember, being 35, I remember the days when gaming was, well, a lot smaller in terms of the community. I think you speak of a gaming community. You didn't have all these insane females posting about sexes. I mean, it was just very different. And of course, when something goes mainstream, women want a part of it. Let me just also mention that this might not be of any interest to non-gamers, but I'm going to mention this nonetheless, that in all this talk of console wars, of consolers versus the PC master race, as a teammate and fellow gamer of mine has put it, well, there's certainly that aspect, sort of a dumbing down. I mean, consoles, they're less exacting than, I mean, you can do a lot less on consoles than you can on the PC, put it that way, in terms of game development. But just as the HT Arcade had rather brilliantly pointed out, that a lot of these applications, iPads, what have you, all these things, really only became popular when they were really simplified and streamlined, and then we had a female majority using them. That I in fact see a simplification of a lot of gaming aspects and gaming elements to also coincide with the sort of female infiltration. The simplification of the classic RPG system. In my opinion, it has led in part to the sort of infiltration, this female grab for power. I mean, the desire to do so. I mean, when we back in the day were sorting through our inventories and looking which stats are the best, I mean, most women don't do that. They don't have interest. So you streamline everything. Prominent example of this. Let's look at what used to be my favorite game of all time, or series of all times, and I was bitterly disappointed to the point of being, well, quite upset by this. Mass Effect, Mass Effect 1. Combat was, but the story was great. It had a very well thought out RPG system, and it was a very good game overall. Mass Effect 2 was probably the best of the series, combined some of the best aspects, and the combat was challenging enough, but not insane that you just didn't want to play it all. Along comes Mass Effect 3, a botched story. The story, I mean, most recently Leviathan came out, and we'll not talk about this here. This is on the gaming channel, but it's a botched story, a poorly told story with bad plot devices. What else do they do? Well, they say they improve combat by, no, they don't. They make it so easy that the level, what they call insanity, is the equivalent of normal or easy mode on previous Mass Effect games. To me, this is, I mean, they can argue about consoling versus PCing all you want, but because there are more and more female gamers, I think you do need to I mean, that's what the developers think. You need to streamline things. After all, nothing in male nature has changed fundamentally in the last 10 or 15 years such that it would cripple their ability to play efficiently on high difficulty levels. No? It's kind of irrational to think that. But of course, females will openly say they're not very interested in the combat mechanics. In fact, I used to correspond with a female on BioWare's social network who talked about Mass Effect occasionally, how she always claimed how disinterested she was in the combat. She had no interest in specific weapons, their qualities, things like that. So of course, if you have a growing audience of people and you want to cater to their needs, what you do is, this is my thesis, my theory. It's not consoles dumbing things down. And that might be part of it, but primarily I think it's the presence of females and women gamers who just don't have the same passion, don't have the same interest in the intricacies of things. There are, of course, exceptions, and they confirm the rule. I mean, for example, on Test Nexus, where there are a lot of good mods for Skyrim, you do have a lot of there's a few mods made by females. Mind you, some of the best of these mods, it's very interesting. You can see it's textures and meshes, that is the graphics, the visuals. The best mods for gameplay mechanics are never made by females, just as an example. So, getting back to the matter at hand, that women don't have an interest in these things for the most part, just like with the gaming and with regards to gaming. And women, for the most part, don't have an interest in deep metaphysical claims or deep metaphysical questions of the universe. It's not really relevant to them. Women are always interested in the here and now, what brings them immediate pleasure, what makes them feel good. And of course, being the center of attention makes women feel really good. They need to be the center of attention. Whether it's your girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend who admonished you for mentioning a close friend of yours and talking about his job because it didn't interest her, and of course it didn't revolve around her, or it's a game that doesn't cater specifically to female needs, or atheism, which, I mean, even if you want to create some sort of community out of absurdity, which, in my opinion, you're what does it have to do with females? I mean, why putting a woman? Yes, I know about the elevator incident on a panel. For what reason? To cater to her needs. On a final note, let me mention that I think I've mentioned this many times before, and I think Girl Rights What has talked about this, and we know this, that there are so many people out there, men and women, who have this deeply ingrained, deeply held, essentially misandry and preference for females. And we know that that men are expendable and women are valuable. Nowhere is this expressed more than in the writings and the speeches of Sam Harris. Now, Sam Harris, for those who don't know, is a neuroscientist and a philosopher as well. He writes. He has an amazing style. He's an excellent writer. He's an excellent speaker, and in particular, I have to say I do subscribe to. I mean, a lot of his scientific ideas. He makes some very compelling arguments about free will or lack thereof, and based on neuroscientific findings, and that's all well and good. But when he talks about it's funny when he talks about atheism, religion. He always talks about the oppressed women in the in Afghanistan. Women have so and so life expectancy. Women suffer, and women can get beaten, and so on and so forth. And that's all you hear. He has this incredibly gynocentric approach to things. Even in his books, when he talks about people, they're always females, it seems. Now, no one's pointed out to him, and I'd love to, but I'll never have the opportunity, that the 12-year-old boy in Afghanistan who has an AK-47 placed in his arms, who may not live to see his 13th birthday, or certainly not grow to adulthood, that he probably has it a lot worse than, as Girl Rights Sweat had pointed out, if you're going to be a possession, it's better to be a treasured possession than someone you just throw away. And so the difference is between say, 45-year life expectancy and a 13 or 14-year life expectancy is pretty great, in my opinion. And this is something that annoys me no end. Otherwise, brilliant thinker with regards to concepts of free will and sort of neurology and neuroscience and how that interacts with human perception in general. Really fascinating stuff that I would recommend. That Sam Harris just totally goes off on this gynocentric angle to things, and it's unfortunate, but it seems that most men, and certainly most men, and of course women, we all favor the female. Not all of us, most of us favor the female over the male. Of course, we express our sympathies towards the female rather than towards the male. So if males suffer in Afghanistan, if they're placed in a form of military conscription at an age when they couldn't even call themselves men, when there's basically young boys still, if they have to suffer that, we don't talk about that. No, it's the women who are suffering. Just sort of a gut reaction. But this is a trend which I've noticed, and so to say that it's just women in the so-called atheist community who are sort of bolstering and buffering this gynocentrism. No, it's not. It's unfortunately people like Sam Harris, even Richard Dawkins, although I think Richard Dawkins on Below the Surface knows what's up, but that you can't. Men are enabling. I've talked about enablers, white knighters, essentially. They're enabling this, and that's part of the problem as well. Of course, it's the men who are just letting these things fly and say, "Oh, it's fine." So that was a lot to say. Not nearly as brief as I wanted to be, but I do have to get ready for work. Let me just thank the young Colonel Absconder. That is an excellent name. And because I'm about to abscond off into the ether to have a shower and head off and commute to work on the dreadful train with the dreadful people. So have a nice day, and thanks for watching.